Hi, I'm Glenn, the corporate chef at Berkshire Grocery Company. If you grew up in Texas like me, salsa's got tomatoes in it. I'm going to show you a recipe today that doesn't have any tomatoes that I think you're really going to enjoy. It's got fresh corn, pineapple, and a crisp vegetable called jicama that we're going to combine in such a way that it'll turn salsa on its head. Okay, so jicama is a root vegetable. It's very popular in Latin cuisine. It's light, crisp, it's slightly sweet, and I'm going to show you how to prep it. So what you'll do is the easiest way that I find is to chop the ends off. And from there, you're just going to take a peeler, like you'd peel an apple, and take the outer skin off. Definitely want to get all this off. Depending on, the time of year or, how long it's been sitting around, you might have to really kind of go at it to get all the peel off. But these are looking pretty good. And from there, you just dice it like you would any other hard vegetable. It's pretty dense. Like I said, it's not too dissimilar to a potato. So, the nicer you dice this, the prettier your salsa is going to be. And you can rough chop it if you want. But, if you can make nice square dice on this thing, your salsa will come out a lot prettier. Now for this recipe, you're only going to need about half a cup of jicama. So a small jicama will be fine. And this recipe doubles really easily too. So next, we are going to take the kernels off some corn. The easiest way to do that is to get yourself a baking dish or a container that's got sides on it and stand the corn up and simply take a knife and cut the cords off. Cut the corn off. You don't want to go too deep and get the husk. If you did this just straight up on your cutting board, the corn flies everywhere, believe me. And salsas are great to ad-lib with. I mean, if you put an extra half a cup of corn or an extra half cup of jicama in your salsa, it isn't going to make any difference. You'll just adjust it out with salt and your lime juice. Now finally, we're going to cut a pineapple. Now I know this might be a little intimidating for folks, but pineapple is one of the easiest things in the world to cut. What we're going to do is we're going to cut the top and bottom off. If you're throwing a party, these make great garnishes. Put those right in your centerpiece. And from there, once you get the top and bottom off, you'll know where to slice when you slice just behind these little brownish areas of the pineapple. Now you'll notice there'll be a little bit left on the bottom. You probably won't be able to get to it, so you can just trim these off too. If you get a little brown left in there, it's certainly not going to hurt anything. You just want to remove the majority of it. So now you've got your skinned pineapple, and what you want to do is cut it down the center carefully. It's a little awkward, but you want to try to get it in half, and then what you'll do is you'll cut it in quarters. Long ways, if that makes sense. And what we're trying to do is get the center core out of it. And you'll see right here, there'll be a core running down all four pieces. So simply take your knife and just cut it out. Those actually can be quite sweet, so you don't necessarily need to throw them away. But they're a little tough to be putting in your salsa. You taste them. So to dice these, what you'll want to do is lay them flat on flat on your cutting board, and run your knife right down the center. If they're overly thick and you want a little bit more precise dice, you'll cut them again. All right, so now we're ready to dice. So you've got your planks of pineapple, they're prepped. So just simply take your knife and cut them into long sticks. Now, I'm cutting this really small. If you're just wanting to prep a pineapple for just to eat, You can, of course, make your dices much longer. You don't have to cut it as finely. But since this is going into the salsa, I want to kind of get it about the same size as the jicama. And one pineapple is probably going to be way more than you need for the recipe. So if you wanted a double recipe, you could do that. You still have some left over. Use the rest in another recipe or just eat it. It's good stuff. It's really good for you too. The next ingredient is shallots. It's an onion. It's a type of onion, and it's not too dissimilar to a red onion. You could certainly substitute a portion of small red onion in the recipe, but you clean it and handle it just like a regular onion. It's just your cuts will be a little bit finer. These are just smaller. Skin comes off on these pretty easy. Just like an onion, you're going to make vertical cuts in the shallot, and then you're going to make horizontal cuts. One cut should be plenty. This doesn't have to be super fine. And then we'll turn it sideways and cut vertically again to get a nice dice. So these are Serrano chilies. Be perfectly okay to use a jalapeno. A little finer, a little hotter. So if you like your salsa hot, great. If you don't, you can omit these. You can take the seeds out. The seeds really will add a lot of heat to this dish. So if you don't, as I said, if you don't like hot, just either omit them or take the seeds out. And this is one of the ways I like to do it. So you stem it, and if you're removing the seeds, you'd split it. And this works for jalapeno also. You'd split the pepper, and then you'd quarter it again. So, and a quick way to remove the veins. Just like this. You'll just slice the vein right out of it. Believe me, this salsa's still going to be pretty hot even without the seeds. This is where most of the heat in a pepper is. It's going to be in the vein and in the seeds. So once you have your pepper strips, you'll cut them in a bit finer strip. Line them all up. There you go. Now, if you're sensitive to, I know a lot of folks, don't like cutting peppers because it makes their hands hurt or burn. If you are a person that's sensitive to that, just simply wash your hands as soon as you're done. Wash your hands with soap, and it should fix that. Another thing folks will do, if you coat your hands in oil when you're handling chilies, that a lot of times will keep them from burning. The next ingredient we're going to use for this salsa is cilantro. Now, you don't have to get real crazy with finely chopping cilantro. Cilantro stems taste great too, so you don't necessarily need to discard them. You can make that part of the chopping. You don't have to pick and work this stuff very hard. So, into the dish. And finally, we're going to put some lime juice in. Simple. So at this point, we pretty much got it done. Now that's one of the things I like about the salsa is how pretty it is. The yellow, the white, green. Now, if you were prepping this ahead, you'd want to stop, cover it, put it in the fridge to chill, and it'll sit easily for a day or so. Now when you get ready to serve it, that's when you'd add your salt. If you'll wait, if you're not going to serve it immediately, don't put the salt in it because it'll cause it to weep and really sort of taste kind of flat by the time you get ready to serve it if it's much more than an hour or two beforehand. So there you go. There's jicama corn salsa. Now I love this salsa recipe. It goes great with chips or a topping for a nice piece of fish or pork. It also would be great at your next taco dinner. You can find this recipe in the July issue of Celebrate Cooking. You can find it online or free at your local Brookshires.